This week on the Shameless podcast.
Every day that we wake up, we have a choice. You have a choice to choose fear and you have a choice to choose courage. But I remember just asking myself, I fought to be in this room. But which woman can I show up for in this room to help her know that you're not here by mistake? We realize it's not necessarily about us, because if you share your story and it's just about you, you're not connecting. When you share your story and it's about lending a human lived experience to another human being so that they see what's possible, you will notice that you tell that story very, very differently. The reason why my story is very interesting is because I am a first generation businesswoman in my family. So when I say I was adventuring into business, it was scary. It's not about what everyone else is screaming at you on social media. Sometimes when you get to a point of desperation, that's when you truly test out what works and what doesn't. For me, God has always been my greatest strategy because He is my CEO. That's why I say I'm founder at Let's. I am not CEO at Let's. He is the chief executive officer. I'm a trained journalist, but when I started looking for work as a journalist, I kept facing hurdles. Every single job interview, almost every single job interview I went to, I was being asked for sex head on by the managers who were mainly men. And so I needed to make a difficult decision to leave or to just go with the flow, because I wondered, how are people getting these jobs? How are my classmates getting these jobs? So I went to God in desperation and I told him, God, I will only keep this business alive because you're the one who gave me the business. It is up to you to keep it alive. Do something. Do you know, on the third day of prayer and fasting, my boss from 10 years ago, he was the regional deputy director of this international NGO. He reached out and he told me, I have been following your journey over the last 10 years. An opportunity has just presented itself. I was like, God, this is you. This is you. This is you.
Sometimes we are afraid to do something. You fear shame. I don't want shame. We're trying to break that burden by sharing stories of courage, resilience, and we want to be able to celebrate your story.
Shameless.
Good day, wonderful people, and welcome to today's episode. My name is Dzikamai Gangaidzo, and I'm the host of the Shameless podcast. And today we've got Ayuma Michelle. Is that right? Did I say it right?
Yes, you said it right.
I'm just going to have to really interrupt. And I know people don't know you. And usually I try to go into explaining and going into the person's profile. But those are two first names, Ayuma Michelle. And I am absolutely confused. What is going on here? Why?
So I'm a journalist by profession. And I also come from a lineage, a family of journalists, sort of like veteran journalists in my country. So my dad is a veteran journalist. And so when I was starting out as a journalist, I was challenged by, so what name do you want to run with? And I realized that if I kept using his name, which is Sender, if I kept using his name, people would start comparing me with him. And so I was like, no, I'm carving my own path and I don't want to be known as the daughter of. I just wanted to be known by my work. And so I started using the name Ayuma Michelle. And then I met my grandmother, who, may her soul rest in peace, I recently lost her. She challenged me years ago to be like, why are you using the name Michelle? That's not your name. So my name Ayuma is her mother's name, and it means beaded or the beautifier. And when I challenged myself that, by the way, why do I always just use these English names and stuff? I mean, Michelle is a really nice classic French name and it's nice, but I just felt like, by the way, why do I always just toss around this name and I don't use the name Ayuma? So I challenged myself to use it, and it has opened me up to a wonderful world of African connections from people in Nigeria, people in Ghana, people in different parts, even my own family. It opened me up to beautiful, rich interactions with fellow people and Africans, women. And I just feel like it tells a story. And as a storyteller, I was like, why not carry a name that tells a story? So for my brand, I prefer using just the name Ayuma Michelle, because I'm carving my own path. And I don't want to be known as daddy's girl, And
I am with you on that one. Sometimes people refer to me as the husband of someone. And I'm like, hey, I've got my own plan for life. And I love the Ayuma, the beautifier of things. So that is wonderful. And beyond that, even is where are you?
That's a huge question. I'm in Kenya. I'm a Kenyan, so I promise you I am not Nigerian, I'm not Ghanaian, but I'm happy to be a relative. If you're looking for a
Okay.
relative, I'm here more than available. Yes. So I'm Kenyan and proudly so, yeah.
And so storytelling and journalism go hand in hand. And we've been listening and hearing some of the amazing work that's being done out of Kenya in terms of standing up and fighting and demanding what is a higher standard of accountability from leaders across the space. How have you're right in the middle of the melting pot. How have you enjoyed that? What have you seen? What has touched you the most? What has saddened you the most? What's your take?
Wow, that is a huge question to ask a Kenyan during this time. But let me tell you, I am so excited because Africa is more than 70% young people at the moment. That means we have a youthful continent, and my country is not spared. So the fact that young people are standing up and demanding of higher standard for them in leadership, in governance, in just the running of the country and lives. I love it. Like for me, as somebody who's been talking about storytelling for almost a decade in its purest form, it's exciting. It's exciting to see that the young people are not waiting for that baton to be handed over, because that's what I believe in leadership happens. Naturally, in leadership, there's supposed to be a handover from one generation to the next. But we find ourselves in a position in Africa and in Kenya where there's a certain generation of leaders that are holding on. They're refusing to pass on that baton. And so what then happens is revolution, is protest. Because they're like, we are ready, we've been prepared, we've been born with the answers, with the innovations, with the solutions, with the standards, with the values. And so how dare you not allow us to do the thing that we're supposed to do in our generation? And so I love it because it's supposed to happen. And the thing that saddens me is that there is a certain group of leaders that don't see how red hot this thing is. They're not seeing how serious these young people are. They're not seeing that these are 70%. They're not seeing that they may be young, their finances may be low, but they have the numbers and they have voting power. So I'm actually saddened by the fact that despite all of that, despite young people losing their lives just so that they can be listened to, just so that they can be heard, just so that the higher standards can be, set up for them so that they too can thrive. For me, that's the thing that's really saddening me, that there are some leaders who actually dare to move on as if nothing happened, as if lives were not lost. But I do know that this is the time and we cannot avoid it. It's happening.
And I have to go, just one question, just sparked by curiosity. Why do you think that they don't see it?
I don't believe that they don't see it. I believe that they don't want to accept it. I believe that they are fighting. I believe that they are resisting it. I believe that they are holding on to power and the old because they know their time is up.
And so it's that fear of change, right?
Yes, it's a fear. It's not even a fear of change. It's fear of letting go of the power, of the authority, of the money, of the opportunities. That's the thing. It's greed. It's you're fearing that they will do better. You're fearing that because they are coming at you with higher demands and higher standards, so you're actually fearing that they will do better, that money is going to go to the right places and instead of your stomach.
Well, I can clearly see that this is something that you are really passionate about.
Yes, and as a young person, as a young African, it's something that, it's literally something that we face every day. You go to spaces and you see the resistance. It's in the business spaces, it's in the politics, it's everywhere. And even further, the fact that I'm a young African woman. So women have been facing this for the longest time, right? But now we are facing it at a continental level where it's not just women, it's also young people. So women are so aware of this experience. where you are constantly being stopped from doing things just because of your gender. But you know for a fact, the fact that you're alive, you're not just here to play sort of like second in command. You're not just here alive to play sort of like a second class citizen. You are here to actively participate in doing the thing that you're supposed to do so that the next generation has it better. So everyone here is here to work. And we were welcomed by God to work. So why are they holding us back from working?
Exactly. I'm with you on that one. Explosive is the word that I'm going to use as to how we've started this episode. But I want to also make sure that people get a little glimpse of what you've done and who you are over and beyond what you might be a little bit passionate about. So Ayuma Michelle is the founder, storyteller consultant, keynote speaker, and a chief facilitator at Let's. Let's stands for Leading Through Story, which is a Kenya-based social enterprise. With about a decade worth of experience, Ayuma has served over 2,000 global women leaders in spaces such as Wall Street boss women and international fashion designers. In addition to that, over 100 pro-women ecosystems, such as Gracia Michelle Trust and Village Capital. And this spans across 5 continents to amplify and structure their impact stories. You've also been an award-winning storyteller by the African Union. You've spoken at TEDx as a TEDx speaker and as a moth storyteller with a global audience of over 450,000 people. That is a lot of people, I gotta say. And just like me, you're a co-host of a podcast, Her Money Story Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I love about your podcast is that you've got that, you move from the digital space and you then transcend into a physical place where you do money missions, where and in this current season, you're doing something to do with women in prisons. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you maybe just give me like 2 seconds about what this money mission, Women in Prisons, is about?
Yes. So one thing that I realized is that our podcast is capturing and documenting stories on our podcast in the digital space about, the transformation that African women are experiencing. And our goal is to heal the relationship African women have with money and move them to a space of abundance. But we realize that there are women who don't have access. There are women who are unreached. And so we just decided to focus for now on women in prison, because from our research, we found out that many women are in prison because of money issues. And so we decided, why not do money missions beyond the podcast, beyond the studio, to actually go and help these women confront their relationship with money, move it to a place of abundance, challenge them to think of a plan beyond prison, you and your babies, because here in Kenya, women's prisons also come with children, because they're children who are born in prison. And so what do these women have a plan? When they leave prison, do they have a plan when the actual reason that got them into prison is because of money issues? So what we're doing is we are working on a plan to help them confront their money stories, their attitude, their relationship with money, so that by the time they leave prison, because they earn money in prison from the activities that they do for the government, they live with money, but that money has a plan. And so them and their babies, they are sorted, because they will not come back to prison, because now they have healed their relationship and they have a plan. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I think that is amazing work.
Thank you.
Transformative work, because without people to support some of the most vulnerable people in probably the most vulnerable moments, we cease to be a community that adds as opposed to just continuously takes.
Yes.
You were also nominated as the best narration in 2022, an outstanding narration. I just have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How excited were you, or was that a surprise when you got nominated for that? And did you win? Did you win?
No, I didn't win, but I was really surprised, to be honest, by the nomination, because I started voice acting officially voice acting professionally in 2021. To be honest, it was a COVID plan because my coaching business had gone a bit silent because of COVID. And so I was like, God, I need a way to provide, and I need something to do. So I was guided, he guided me to get into voiceover acting because a lot of my friends who are journalists as well, I noticed that they were going into voiceover acting. And that was a great way of earning money just from your home if you've set up a mic studio, just like what we're doing right now. And so I was doing that work. And then suddenly there's APVA, which is the Association of Podcasters and voice artists in Africa, and I got nominated. So I was really, really surprised, and even in terms of SOVAS, later on, there's APVA, which is Africa, and then I also got nominated in SOVAS. SOVAS, that one is like global now. It's like the Grammys for voiceover acting because it's based in Hollywood. Guys went to the Warner Bros. Studios and that's where it was at. Obviously, I wasn't able to travel personally, but I was really surprised. But then again, I did the work. So much as I was surprised that, wow, out of all of the amazing people, because, voice actors, even Hollywood actors and actresses are also voice actors, So I was like, okay, amid all of those, I was nominated. I was like, oh, this is good. This is amazing. But again, when I looked down, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, imposter syndrome. I do not like that word at all. I was like, I did the work. So
if you did the work, you should stand up and be proud by it.
Exactly. By the time brands like Adidas are coming and saying, hey, they want to audition me, I'm like, I did the work. I mean, I'm surprised. I was like, wow, Adidas, oh my gosh. But at the same time, I was like, I did the work.
So wait, so you're on an Adidas ad and you are a voice of acting in an Adidas ad?
Yeah, not yet in an Adidas ad because they auditioned me. So you know how good you are as a voice actor based off of your auditions. Yeah, they'll keep coming. The only reason why I didn't get that job is because they just wanted a younger talent. But they said I was amazing. So I was like, yes, I did the work. I did the work, man.
And massive kudos and props to you. So I'm very curious to understand, if I was to sort of rewind, right? Early days, upbringing. Where in Kenya did you sort of grow up?
Wow, I grew up in a couple of places because of the nature of my parents' job. So my mom is a registered nurse. Okay, at that time, she was a registered nurse in Kenya. So, you're posted by the hospitals. You're posted by the Ministry of Health. This is where you should go. They don't care about your tribe, your whatever. They post you where you're supposed to go. Yeah, and at that time, she just had these 3 young girls. And she was like, listen, wherever I go, my children are moving with me. And so the hospital provided accommodation for the nurses, and it was free housing. So I moved with my mom to a place called Machakos, where I currently stay. It's 2 hours out of Nairobi. And then my dad, at that time, he was a PR. He moved from traditional journalism and he was now in PR. And so in PR, he was working for our power company, the main power company in Kenya. And so he had a house in Nairobi. But my mom was like, no, I can't leave this man with my 3 children. So we had 2 houses. Once in a while, we'd go hang out with dad, and then we'd still come back with mom. So we were sort of moving. We were moving family based off of the career of my parents, but mainly between Nairobi and Machakos. It's a place called Machakos. And so we kept moving on and on. Even within Nairobi, we kept moving because of wherever my parents were posted for work.
You said you've got three siblings, three girls.
Two. So I'm the third one, and I'm the middle child. I'm the independent one. I'm the different one. Yes.
We celebrate differences. We celebrate different ones.
Yes.
And would you say then, because were you guys then close with each other as 3 sisters?
Yeah, because we are the only friends. We are the only constant friends we had. When you keep moving from school to school, neighborhood to neighborhood, and always having to create new friends all the time, it really makes sense to have a constant. So my sisters have always been my constant friends. Yeah.
And how do you think that your sisters being your constant friend, or the fact that you moved, has sort of translated into personalities or traits of personalities that you are now?
Yeah, that's very interesting. It's a very interesting question because now looking back, I realized that I no longer experience shock whenever I'm moving maybe into a new workplace, new industry, new uh sort of like community, new I always feel sort of like I can do this. I always have the opportunity to reintroduce myself and introduce myself to a new set of people. But also because you reached out to me and you told me we're talking about building communities for women. I now realize that's actually a superpower in terms of community building. Is because I know what it feels like to create a community from the ground up. I know what it feels like to reintroduce yourself to a new set of people over and over and over again. But also I know what it takes to sustain that connection and that feeling of togetherness. So I think from a young age, I guess that's what God was teaching me through those experiences, that by the way, you always have the opportunity to and the strength to reintroduce yourself to a new group of people. And so it's become something that I consistently do with ease, but I realize that it's not easy for others to do. So I'm more than happy to offer that as a gift and also as a skill to help people build strong communities that last.
So, but then would you say that when you're introducing or reintroducing yourself, that you still carry a certain level of fear, or there is no fear and it's easy for you? And the reason I ask that is that you said it's not easy for everybody. Yeah. And my question then becomes, how can people, or what can people learn from how you cope with it that they can also try to practice?
Yeah, I like to look at fear. There was a time I was scared. There's a time I feared. There's a time, in fact, my mom used to say I used to cry a lot as a child. And it's because I think it can be, it's scary to constantly meet people who you don't know who these people are about, especially as a child. You don't know when you go to school, will you be liked? Will you not be liked? Will which teacher like you? Will which teacher not like you? It's a new location. So not only are you learning about the location, but the neighborhood, but also in class, you're constantly searching for safety and for security, because that's what it's all about. You're looking for safety in people, but I acknowledge there's a time I struggled with it. There's a time I got bullied, especially in school, primary school. I got bullied so bad, and sort of I got to a place where it no longer was fearful. I turned it around into a gift. And how I did this is, in life, we have two choices. Every day that we wake up, we have a choice. You have a choice to choose fear, and you have a choice to choose courage. Courage does not mean that fear does not exist. Courage is a decision that you're making. It's not a feel-good thing. Courage is the decision to do something despite it. Courage is a do word. People feel courageous when they're doing courageous things, when you're introducing yourself to a new person, when you choose to believe in the good, the best in people as to opposed to the worst in people, when you choose to show up at the event, when you choose to approach that person and say, hello. And instead of making it about yourself, it's about stepping into the curiosity of another human being who's just near you. So that's a strength I realized, that I will always make it about the other person and be like, hey, how are you? What is your human experience? What brings you here? What's something that's standing out? And then suddenly that person feels seen. They feel heard. They feel like, oh, I came here and I spoke with somebody. In fact, there's a little trick I always do whenever I walk into spaces. So, for example, there's a time I was invited to it was a huge event. It was a huge moment for me because I fought to be in that room. And so I was asked, Ayuma Michelle, who's obviously the former First Lady of South Africa, Nelson Mandela's wife, she was visiting Kenya for a mission. And so she was meeting with a group of women in business, in leadership, and there were serious heavyweights who are going to be in that group, who are going to be in the room. And so I applied and I was like, I deserve to be in this room because I do have communities of women. And they told me that the spaces were full, but I still went further. And I told this lady, but I have this capacity. I have these women, these women communities that I run. I deserve to be in the room because of this. Obviously, not from a place of, sort of like ego, but from a place of I desire to be in this room so that I represent these women and their needs. And I got into the room. They created an extra seat for me so that I can actually be in that room. But when there was that room, of course, there's so many expert women, exceptional women who are doing all manner of amazing stuff, both in the diaspora and in Kenya and across Africa in various spaces. But I remember just asking myself, I fought to be in this room. But which woman can I show up for in this room to help her know that you're not here by mistake? You're not being overlooked, because in such rooms, there are always people who are being overlooked because everyone is rushing to speak to Her Excellency. Everyone is rushing to speak to the people who have the money, the titles, the stuff, just so that they can seem to be associated. But I remember for me, my goal was to be, who can I show up for? Who is being overlooked? Who probably no one even cares that she's in this room, but can I show up for her and let me speak to her? And so I noticed there was a certain lady, she was shying away and she was really quiet. And I just went to her and I told her, hey, how are you? What brings you to this room? And so she told me about her story and stuff. And she felt, I could just see the light, her eyes were lighting up. And she was like, wow, there's somebody who sees me. Like, I'm actually here, I'm alive. Somebody sees me. And I remember just feeling like, yeah, I will be in a room. Not only will I speak to, some of the most exceptional women in the room in terms of their achievements, but I will also show up for another woman to help her know that it's not by mistake that she's in that room, that she's being seen. And there's something she can walk away with saying, hey, I connected with this person and this is what I learned. This is what she shared with me. This is what I shared with her. You get what I mean? So that's a practical thing that maybe people can begin to practice. It's not about us. It's really not. It's about how, in the spaces that you're in, how do you show up for others?
And I absolutely find that amazing and beautiful. And so what I would like to now sort of spend the next couple of minutes talking to is the work that you're currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
And also why is it important for stories and storytelling to be at the centerpiece of leading communities, and especially women-led communities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to say this about storytelling, and especially when it comes to community building. Stories, and especially personal stories, they are the easiest and yet the most beautiful ways in which you can help others to feel seen and to feel heard. When I share my story, I'm inviting other people to see themselves through the lens of my experience. When I share my story, I'm allowing them to see themselves. I'm allowing them to also see what's possible for them. It's a beautiful space of possibility. And I love that word. I literally love that word. Possibility. What is possible for me? If Ayuma was able to get into a room and do that, what is then possible for me? They don't have that experience, but through my story, I'm allowing them to see and sense what is possible for them. So in other words, you're lending possibility to another human being. And what's more amazing than that? So I believe that when it comes to community building, when you share your personal story, because no one can deny your lived experience. No one can come and say, no, you're not Zimbabwean. No one can come and say, no, you didn't experience that. Somebody can't come and say, no, actually, that's not the reason why you moved to that other city. No, it's your experience. You are the author. You get to define from what lens you want human beings to see. But I also like to share that it's important that we realize it's not necessarily about us, because if you share your story and it's just about you, you're not connecting. When you share your story and it's about lending a human lived experience to another human being so that they see what's possible, you will notice that you tell that story very, very differently. And then you will start to see it invites questions, it invites interactions. And then that's how one by one you start building a community around this value or around this lived experience. So the reason why stories are important for community building, and especially for strong communities, is because you're lending an experience and inviting a collaboration. You're inviting possibilities for what that looks like. And then sort of you can be like a Moses. that leads people to the promised land, but also that leads people through the Red Sea. But they need somebody who knows what the promised land is all about. They need somebody to lead. And so it requires courage to be able to open up your mouth, to share your personal story so that you may lead other people towards a space of possibility.
So sometimes I don't know whether my story will have any value to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I then don't see the need to talk, don't see the need to also share, to be part of the story, because so what? And I do believe I might not be the only person.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to somebody like that and who views their story in that light?
That's a very good question. And I've also faced that as well. I mean, by the time I opened my mouth, let me tell you, when I was starting my business years ago, I used to literally use other people's stories. I used to use Michelle Obama. I used to use Oprah, Auntie Oprah. I used to use Melody Hobson. I used to use Lisa Nichols, because I didn't think that my story was big enough of a transformation story to lead my clients. So I used to borrow a lot of these stories of African Black women who have had clear success with their stories. But then something happened. I started, as obviously developing my business, developing different structures. I started having, what is it called? Like, when you have a sales funnel and you have to sign up. So I was like, by the way, other coaches have sign-ups. Let me create a sign-up. Okay, so what's your name? Which country do you come from? How did you find out about me? Why do you want to write your story? And those are the questions. Then I started noticing, when I started reading this data, something that my business coach likes telling me. He says, data, you cannot lie about data. Data is everything. He was like, nothing squashes all of those other things other than data. He also likes to say numbers don't lie, but also data does not lie. Yeah. So I looked at this data and I was like, oh my goodness. You know what I started seeing people share? The reason why they want to work with me is because they want to write like me. They want to speak like me. They want to share their stories like me. At first I was like, what? What do you mean? You don't have to be like Michelle. I was like, you don't have to be like Michelle. You don't have to be like Oprah. But then it came to a time where God started telling me, my dear, get out of your own way and get out of my way. And the thing that I would now share to these people and to you is, do you know there's a group of people who have been created to be served by you on this earth? You're not Superman. I'm not Superwoman. But do you know there's a specific group of people in this world who've been created to be served by you so that you can be their destiny helper and connect them to their destiny so that they can do the work that they've been called to do. And when you hold yourself back, remember, your story is evidence of what is possible for them, right? If you hold back your story because you feel like it's not enough, it's not big enough, it's not dramatic enough, it's not bestseller enough, you are holding back those people from moving in their destiny. And they might not need Oprah. They might not need Michelle Obama. It may be, for example, you're now making, let's say, marble cakes or pound cakes, but you started with a cupcake. Do you know there are people who just need that cupcake part? They don't need the full-on wedding, dramatic wedding that looks shaped like a mermaid. They're like, okay, there is room for that. They just need to know how to make a cupcake. And so where you are is you have the cupcake story. Share that cupcake story. Because you know what it's like. It's a full circle experience. So what I like telling people is, what's the full circle experience? Because then again, there are people who just share stories. For example, I've shared my story. There's a time I shared my moth story on a stage, a global main stage event. It was my very, very big first stage, literally sold out. In the room were like Melinda Gates and the foundation, the people who were there, experts, politicians, business gurus in the audience.
How many people?
I think over 1,000.
Over 1,000 people in one room, and you're up on stage.
And I'm up on stage and I'm sharing a story about my childhood and a turkey. And I shared this story. And afterwards, there's this politician who reached out to me and she said, hey, I need you to help me tell my story because I want to write a book. And so when I asked her, why do you want to write a book? What's the story? What is the lesson? And she didn't have one because she was literally in the middle of the drama, of the chaos. And I told her, I can't work with you because I want in this moment to protect you from what you're about to do. Because if you share your story without a lesson, you're going to create more harm to yourself and to others, because once you share it, it's out. But I told her, finish up with therapy, learn the full circle, go through it, because God is patient and your audience is patient. Once that story cooks and it's ready, you will know because you have the lesson, because you've gone through the full circle, and now you have the cupcake story to share with these people so that they too can learn how to make cupcakes the way you did. But you're no longer in that season because now you're on marble cake or pound cake. But you can tell the story fully because you've gone through it. You're out of the woods, you're out of the fire, and you can fully tell the story of this was the lesson. This is what happened, but this is the lesson. Remember Moses? You can lead them to the place. Although he never made it, let's use Joshua. You're a Joshua.
Okay,
you went,
yes.
you saw the giants, you saw the whatever, but you came back with a good report and you said, this is the lesson. So therefore, you need to fight mountains. You need to ask for the mountain. You will face giants. You will go through the Red Sea. You will do all of that. But this is the lesson. At the end of the day, this is what the promised land looks like. If you don't have your promised land story, you are leading people to distraction. Because what happens when women come to you with stories about how they got raped? Do you have an answer? How did you get out? What help did you seek? What help did you afford yourself? And then what is the promised land out of that story? Because if you just like this self-help group where you're just like sharing about trauma and drama and stuff, that's not leadership. That's dealing.
Yeah.
That's promoting suffering. But if you got out, you started a foundation, you wrote a book, you did therapy, you finished therapy, you learned why you went through that story, you went healing, you forgave, then this is the lesson so that you can build this foundation. How many girls have been rescued? How many girls have transformed their story? It's because now you have the lesson, you have the story. So remember the cupcake, the Joshua and the promised land. And also remember, you need to go through the full circle experience, and everyone has a story that they need to share. Otherwise, you would not be alive, because God does not make mistakes. You are not alive today just to eat chicken, just to watch TV, and to watch that football match. You are alive today to do God's work. And He is an investor, and He always asks for, what is my return of investment? And your story is what will connect people to possibilities.
Hey there. Just a quick note. Over 80% of you tuning into the Shameless podcast haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the insights and stories we're sharing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us bring even more amazing conversations your way.
That is beautiful. And so, but then you also focus primarily on women communities or on women-centric activities. Why is that? Why such the strong connection to women and the storytelling? Where does that come from for you?
Okay, so I can tell you for free, women are very good customers. That's on a light note. Let me tell you, women are good customers.
Well, they keep coming back for more.
They keep coming back. They referrals. They market your business for free. The whole salon will know about it. The whole church group will know about it. Their mothers, their sisters, their husbands will know about it. In fact, did you know that October is actually Breast Cancer Awareness Month, especially for women? And
tell me more.
Did you know that hospitals use the strategy of women to get men to also get checked?
No.
Did you know that? Yeah.
Well, explain what you mean by that.
Because a man, it's a very vulnerable process. By the time a man goes and gets checked, you know, for I forget the name. It's called what cancer? The cancer
Prostate.
that affects men. Yeah, prostate. I mean, that's a very vulnerable experience.
Yes.
And men shy away from such experiences because they're like, you are checking my manhood, you know? And so from research, they realized that men often go accompanied by the women in their lives that they trust. I remember even telling for an ex of mine all the way from America, I said, by the way, you need to get checked. Did you go get checked? So the guy was like, the next time when I come to Kenya, we'll go together and you make sure you're around. So, you know, he was like, so this guy all the way from America wants to come and get checked in Kenya because he trusted me. And he was like, okay, if Ayuma is there with me, then fine, I'll be safe.
But that's a beautiful thing.
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, like for you, I know the hospital will not target you, it'll target your wife.
But I don't like that. I feel like the hospital is playing tricks on my soul, and
it's because data. Remember, data does not lie.
We should just have a talk. Hospital to man, like come or don't.
Data does not lie, because if this is advertised to men head on, they will fear. They will not respond. They tried it already. And the men will not go there like, what? You want me to go checked? Who? By what? No, for what? But when the woman gets checked, the women have a way of just beautifully just sharing, oh, this is the transformation. This is what I went through. It is safe. You know, so even men need to feel safe. And so men feel safe with the women in their lives that they trust and that afford them that safety. And that's why they're able to go get checked, go through this vulnerable experience, but for the sake of their own health. Yeah. So the reason why that was on a light note though, the reason why I focused on women in my work is because literally, I operate like a soldier. God made it very clear to me that my destiny and my purpose is to help women to go back to his garden, to realize who they are in him. Because, you know, in the area of gender equity, one thing that I learned is that, especially when I left journalism, allow me to go deep a little. I'm a trained journalist, but when I started looking for work as a journalist, I kept facing hurdles. Every single job interview, almost every single job interview I went to, I was being asked for sex head on by the managers who were mainly men. And so I needed to make a difficult decision to leave or to just go with the flow, because I wondered, how are people getting these jobs? How are my classmates getting these jobs? And I just realized that, you know what, I'm not the kind of a person who one day wants to lie to my children as to how I built my career, because I know I'm made for greatness. Even if sometimes they don't believe in it, God says it, so it's true. And so I learned his confidence. I borrow from his confidence in me. And so I learned that one day, what will happen when my kids ask me, Mom, how did you build your career? Mom, how did you do your first job interview? What will I tell my sons? What will I tell my daughters? And I know I'm a person, I do not like lying. My mom told me that from a young age. I'm a no filter kind of a person. I want to be truthful. And so I said, I want to be proud to tell my kids that I faced this, but I said no, because I stood on my values. I stood on, I am more than just my body. I'm more than just my looks. I have something to offer that's beyond my dad's name. I knew my dad's name could get me through the door, but I was like, no, I'm building something of my own. And I'm not writing about politics like he did. I'm not doing all of this stuff like he did. I'm talking about social issues affecting women and children. So I wanted to be taken seriously beyond my looks, beyond this other stuff, the fluff. I have a voice and I want to be heard. And so I decided, you know what, God, I trust you. The fact that you didn't take me this far just to fail. I went into business. I decided that it may have not worked in mainstream journalism, but surely this can take me somewhere. I can build something with this. And so that's when the Lord led me into business. And the reason why my story is very interesting is because I am a first generation businesswoman in my family. So when I say I was venturing into business, it was scary.
Everyone was not with you.
Yeah, I've seen the men in my family succeed in business, exceptional businessmen, including my dad. And I was choosing a route that they said I should not pursue because they told me go for journalism, because in my family, there are politicians, there are business people, powerful men. And by being a journalist in Kenya, how it works, behind every politician and a powerful person, there's a journalist. So it's somebody who's shaping their narrative, shaping their story, ensuring their names and their stories are heard in the right places. So they were sort of building me to be that for them. But I was like, surely I didn't go through all this just so that I can be the Olivia Pope of the men in my family. I have something. I have something to offer. So I thought it was a joke. When I told them no, I thought it was a joke because I thought we are educated. I mean, we are modern. I mean, we are not those kind of people who look down upon women. Shock on my face. They withdrew their support, financial, emotional. I was on my own. I was cut clean. So the only kind of support I had was my mom, my sisters. And so you can now understand why it became imperative that I started building support communities on my own and for myself from the ground up. So why I focus on women is because consistently God has shown me it's about women. And they are more than you. There are other women who are also first generation builders, first generation innovators, and they need a space to be able to build, because women too can build. And that's the story that God tells us. Women were also meant to build. We are not just meant to be like co-pilots, co-this, co-that. We are also building together. And so I needed to be my own rescue, and I needed to create my own sort of like, situation where and community where women builders were also keeping me accountable, because there's no such danger. There's no dangerous thing than building on your own, building alone and in your own knowledge, because you can do so much damage to yourself and to others. And so I ventured into business, daring to be the first generation business women, but also daring to also build a support system that I knew not. I was literally winging it. I was literally just building as I go, because my mom was a civil servant. The number one thing civil service affords you is security and money. I mean, she did it. She retired. She enjoyed it. The business world, you need to be a miracle worker, literally. You need to be a miracle worker because you believe in yourself in a way that looks stupid. You do things that look stupendous. You make money out of nothing. Literally, it's miracle work. It's miracle work. You take risks. Literally, you take risks that do not make sense to other people. But somehow, other people who are in the same place, they believe it because going back is not an option. Yeah. That's one thing that scares entrepreneurs, going back into employment. They're like, why did I come? Because employment, not because of the security, but the thing that scares entrepreneurs or business people is, what if? Oh my goodness, that question is haunting. What if it worked out? What if I just kept pressing on? What just if I landed? Or just a little bit more? We are sort of like crazy.
It sounds like you're getting a little thrill from it.
Yeah.
And so with that thrill, like if I was to say, if there was a moment or a story, an instant or a space, an experience where time stood still and you went, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is so fulfilling. This is exactly what I want. If I was to ask from you just one, and I know it's like choosing your favorite child, but like I'm asking for one, what would that one thing that would be that you'd look back and reflect and say, this thing was the moment where you knew? And it's, you can even feel the goosebumps. I can see them.
Yeah.
What would that
be? The interesting thing is, in entrepreneurship, it's not just one moment. There are a couple. Because like I said, you're literally like a miracle worker. And you still ask yourself, how am I here? How am I still doing this thing?
But Ayuma, I've asked for one.
I know. But the beauty of God is that He keeps affording us those opportunities which affirm us on our journey. So let me share one, because your audience is about transformation, right?
Yes.
So I'll share with you one that happened in 2022, right? In 2022, I was literally convinced that my business was going to close because we were just coming out of COVID. Audiences have changed. Businesses were holding on to their money. People were also holding on to their money. My country was going through a double election. It was dangerous. People were leaving the country. When I started my business and started earning serious money, my early clients were diplomatic spouses. So these diplomats kept also bringing business my way. But now they were leaving the country because our country was no longer favorable for diplomats and for their spouses. So they were being shifted to other nations. Our corporates were holding on to their money because they were like, do we advertise? Where do we shift our money? Because our country and the business platform, the marketplace, was not looking favorable to spend money. Everyone was like, let's hold on to our money. We don't know what's coming. And so I started suffering in terms of my business because the kind of service that I offer, it almost feels like a luxury service. We've just come from the pandemic. People had started spending a little, but now people are holding on to their money because of the elections. And so by the time somebody goes for coaching, by the time somebody pays for coaching in such a climate, I mean, you must have some serious money, or your company is paying for it, right? So people were focusing on the basics: school fees, food, shelter, healthcare. So my service, when it's compared to those essential services, it looks like I must have a little bit more of money and even the time to be able to seek coaching. So for 3 months, literally 3 months, I was waking up, I was doing the marketing, I was having the discovery calls. No client was signing up. And I was crying, and I went and talked to my coach, and I was telling my coach, I don't know if my business will survive. Either I continue doing it from Kenya, or I completely leave Kenya and I plant myself in another country. Because at the same time, there were some top branding people who were reaching out to me from South Africa, and they were telling me, Ayuma, what are you still doing in Africa? And they were telling me that Africans are not into coaching. They do not understand self-development, and it will take a lot of work for them to be able to buy into self-development. And so they were like, right now, if you position yourself in another country, you will be earning in millions. And so I was sort of like in a pendulum. Which decision? Where do I go? Do I plant myself in another country and earn the millions? And do I continue doing the Lord's work here in Africa and to still push on with it? Because I believe that self-development and people should believe in themselves enough to see themselves as their greatest investment. What I did, let me tell you, is I decided to stay in Africa. And I said, I will keep doing the fight. I will, because somebody needs to do the work, And I said, I spoke with my coach and we worked on a strategy. But I have different strategies. There's the business strategy. There's a spiritual strategy. As I said, I'm a born-again Christian. For me, I don't believe business is just business. I believe business is seriously spiritual. I went into prayer and fasting for 3 days. And let me tell you, on the third day, because let me tell you, sometimes desperation can lead you to pray with a fire that you've never prayed before. Let me tell you, I was upset. I was angry.
Why?
I was upset. And I was like, there is no way that I am broke and I'm a child of God. No way. There is no way I call my God King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Do you know what that means? It means I'm one of those kings. I am one of those lords. Do you know that's what it means? It's not just King of Kings, other kings like David. It's King of Kings, people who occupy territories. Lord of Lords, that means like a landlord.
Yes.
You occupy territories. There's no way my God is a King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I'm broke. No way. And I was like, no, it does not match up. So I was upset, not with God, but with the circumstance. And I was like, God, I'm coming to you as your child. And I am actually demanding that I exercise the authority that you've given me. The only way I have tried working, the 5 a.m. club, I did that. The posting on social media, I did that. Making sure your Instagram looks amazing and, looking nice. I did that. I did the most. I was doing discovery calls every single day, every single week, but the people were not converting into actual clients. So what is the issue here? I was like, money is spiritual. I was like, then let me go into the spiritual world. Let me ask God of the things he already speaks of me in his word. And I told God, God, you are the only one who'll get me out of this. I have tried it on my own. I have done the businessy things. I have done the Instagram things that we are told every single day, oh, you need to do this. I did the most, but still there were no results. And as you know, in business, it's all about the results.
About the results, yeah.
Strategy, execution, it's strategy for breakfast. If upon execution, you have no customers, there is something wrong. If you're not making money, there is something wrong. So I went to God in desperation and I told him, God, I will only keep this business alive because you're the one who gave me the business. It is up to you to keep it alive. Do something. Do you know, on the third day of prayer and fasting, my boss from 10 years ago,
wow,
imagine, my boss from 10 years ago, he was the regional deputy director of this international NGO. He reached out and he told me, no, actually, at the beginning of the day, I sent him a happy birthday message because you know how LinkedIn tells you who's this person. So I wished him happy birthday. Towards the afternoon, I reached out. I saw that he'd sent me a message. So I was just thinking, oh, this guy is just going to be like,
thank you.
Thank you, what, because he's a man of very few words. I balanced it out with my words because I'm very talkative. And so but I was like, okay, let me not ignore this message. Let me reach out. Let me see. It would be nice to speak with him. So his message read, thank you so much for the birthday wishes. Then he was like, I have been, that's where God kicks in. I have been following your journey over the last 10 years.
Wow.
An opportunity has just presented itself. An opportunity has just, the word just, presented itself. And I'd like you to help me out in two ways. Meet with me. Let's organize a call so that I tell you more about it. I was like, God, this is you. This is you. This is you. So indeed, what God's word says in his word, that we can challenge him when it comes to giving. I was giving. I was doing all of that stuff. But where was I not exercising my authority? And so later on, we had the call, and not only did he have one opportunity, he had two opportunities. He wanted me to coach his daughter. He also wanted me, literally, to fly. He wanted to fly me to Burundi to capture leadership stories of the top women leaders in Burundi, both in the city and in the villages.
Wow.
I was like, God, this can only be you. God used that opportunity to show me what I am about. I was doing the 5 a.m. club, these things that we are being pushed on every single time when you're on social media. But when all of that stuff does not work, it pushes you to a place of silence. And I'm glad that the only voice I was holding on to was God. And I'm so glad that I then reached out and I said, God, this can only be you. So later on, literally, at the same time, what happened was not only did this guy come through with this jobs, but also at the same time, the Moth was having their very first masterclass. They invited me because I'm also one of their Moth storytellers, but amongst all of the Moth storytellers they could have chosen, they chose me to participate in their first masterclass. So do you know how the round of events happened? Mind you, I was broke, right?
Yeah.
Literally, on what morning? On this morning, there was a morning, I think it was a Thursday morning, I was coming out of this hotel, and mind you, I'd asked God for a break because I was tired of being at home. So not only did he grant me the opportunity to go to a hotel where I could just rest, but also at 4 a.m., I was coming out of this hotel having been trained on a new storytelling tool that helps you get a story faster. I was then going to Burundi to collect these stories using the same tool. Mind you, you're working with top leaders, using the same tool to capture, I think there were 12 stories of exceptional women leaders in Burundi, both in the city and in the village, trained the staff member on how to use that tool to collect more stories of women so that this organization can have enough leadership stories to be able to use in government, in policy, in capacity building, but also in storytelling about change happening in Burundi. Burundi is a young nation that is healing herself from the civil, from the war that happened. years ago. And at the forefront is women leaders who are helping this nation to lead through the organizations that they are building, through the solutions they are offering, the businesses that they are starting. And it all starts with these stories. They captured the leadership framework. They captured evidence of what is possible, not only for the nation of Burundi and other women in Burundi, but to the world. And so that was a moment when I came back home. Guess what? When I was still in Burundi, I was invited to a land something like land buying platform. And in that platform, it was both for Asian women in Kenya and indigenous women in Kenya. By the end of that month, let me tell you, Dzikamai, not only had I gotten an amazing client who was paying me almost $1 million Kenya shillings.
Yeah.
I also was a landowner.
Wow.
Also, my business shot up. I have never lacked clients since then. So by sharing this story, it's to tell you that you need to do it your way.
Yeah.
It's not about what everyone else is screaming at you on social media. Sometimes when you get to a point of desperation, that's when you truly test out what works and what doesn't. For me, God has always been my greatest strategy, because he is my CEO. That's why I say I'm founder at Let's. I am not CEO at Let's. He is the chief executive officer. He is the one who connected me to my boss from 10 years ago. He is the one who allowed me to stay in that hotel. He is the one who connected me to those women leaders. He is the one who allowed me to do that work in less than a week, collecting 12 stories from busy women, from police women to ministers to all of that. I did all that, but by God's grace. And after that, helping me to be a landowner, God shut me up and told me, get out of my way.
Get out of my way. Step into your greatness.
Step into your greatness. And that's how it worked for me. And that's when I knew, God, if it were not for you, this business would be closed. Literally.
Yeah. And so, but then I've got a question, right? So I 100% resonate with how the part that God has played within your journey. You've also mentioned, though, that you hate the word imposter syndrome because you did the work.
Yeah.
And so there is a portion of work that you had to do in order for you to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that God put in front of you.
Yes.
And so would you say that even in those 3 months, your attitude of work ethic, drive, it was in you, it was within you as well?
Exactly. I was doing the work. Even when the results were just saying other things.
Yes.
I was doing the work. Because sometimes, this is the thing I'm learning on my journey. Sometimes the work is the training of character. It's not about money. So if I valued myself based off of the money that I was to get at the end of it, it's important, especially in business, it's important. But sometimes the season of learning is not about the money. The money always follows. Sometimes the most important thing is the work. God was building in me diligence, right? Because the word of God says the diligent man will rule. And for me, the reason why I was upset was, why am I not ruling? Where's the money?
Despite being diligent.
Despite being diligent, I was doing the thing. You know, I was doing the thing, but literally, I was feeling frustrated because I was doing the thing, but I was not getting the results, which is the money, the customers, the result. But then now looking back, this is why I say, the full circle. I cannot share the story because I went through the full circle. The full circle is in business and in leadership, there's always seasons of learning. Sometimes the season of learning is how do we make the money? Sometimes the season is how can I build the character of and the skill of diligence, so that when the money comes, you will know how to take care of it. You will know it's not by you. It's not me. It's not because I'm cute. It's not because of all these other things. It's not because of social media. It's not because of if social media looks nice and aesthetic. No. That is important, yes. But the important thing is that God was training me is who's the CEO of this business? Exactly. You can do those Instagram templates. You can do all of that stuff. But who is the CEO of this business? You need to learn to depend on me. And indeed, let me tell you, that is a serious lesson that I have learned, because I learned that business is spiritual. And because I learned business is spiritual, now in Kenya, when we see all of these funny things are happening, you now understand why every business that succeeds, every business that does not succeed, there's a spirit behind it. And I'm now realizing the way businesses are being run in Kenya, in Africa, across the world, is under what altar is this business being built? And so remember what I shared, what my purpose is: to bring God's daughter back to the garden. It's not Ayuma's daughters. It's not Ayuma's clients. It's not Ayuma's followers on social media. It's God's daughters. So if I was not involving God in it, I am building something that is not connected to why I am here. So the money is important. Hard work is important. But what this hard work is fueling and is servicing what altar? For me, it's about God. Literally. I would not be in business were it not for God. I did all of those things I was taught in business school. I did everything. It was not working. It was not. But I was being diligent. I was showing up. I was waking up. I was doing the meditations. I was doing the Bible reading. My goodness. In fact, I was even surprised how much I was able to do. The prayers I did, let me tell you, the Bible verses, the sermons, they were really coming in. But there was no monetary result, because at that time, God was training me to be diligent in Him and to depend on Him. And so right now, even if COVID is, God forbid, but another thing is to happen in the world, I know I'm not being sustained by how hard I work, because there are people who believe their hard work is what's sustaining them. Hard work is not enough. I promise you, hard work is not enough. If hard work was enough, Africans would be the richest people in the world.
Yes.
But hard work is not enough. You need something more. You need something more powerful. Some other people like going into other funny things, but for me, it's in God. And so that's why when people ask, how are you here? It's only God. Because I know what it's like doing things on my own. I know what grinding is like, but still not getting results. It's only God. So yes, I did the hard work, but it was not enough. And that's why I give God the glory, because I know I did the work. But only until it was met and until I was aligned with the right perspective, that's when there was an opening. Like literally, the guys told me the money just appeared. He said an opportunity just presented itself. Suddenly, this international NGO had money.
Just like that.
I literally wrote my own TOR.
Exactly. Wow, that is absolutely...
That's money I did not have. Close to 1 million Kenya shillings. I did not have that money.
Yeah.
I did not have money to buy land. I did not have money to travel around. And now suddenly it's there. Yes, less than a month.
Less than a month.
God came through.
Nah, that is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So I think that with that, I would like to wrap up this episode. I'd like to try to summarize. And I'm going to use the word try. I'm going to try really, really hard to summarize what we've been speaking about. And as I do that, I'm gonna start it off with a quote. You might know this quote, you might not know this quote, but I am gonna use this quote. And then I'm gonna use this quote and I'm gonna string it through, or try to string it through. So the quote for this episode is: create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life, because you become what you believe. By Oprah Winfrey. And the fact that you talk about imposter syndrome not being a word that you like. For you, everything is driven through purpose and representing values, so that when you walk or enter a room, you ask yourself, what and who am I representing as I stand here? Who can I show up for? And by doing that, you step into what some other people might call uncomfortable spaces, but you make the conversations about them. you make the connection about them. And as you do that, you build trust, you build connectivity, authenticity. And that is the space in which we are able to grow from. We're able to build a community, and we'll be able to transform from. And I mean, moving around from Machakos, Nairobi, with the mom, your dad, this world that you had where you're constantly on the move, you gained the community. The community around you was the thing that really helped you sort of guide you through the different spaces, the different stages of your life, the different changes, and the constant of your family, your sisters and your mother and your father are the things that essentially were the foundation of what you were able to then step forward into your purpose and greatness. And I find it so amazing that you've been running your podcast for a year, but before that, 2021 to 2022, you're able to be nominated not only within the African continent, but on a global stage for your voiceover work. And all of this stuff, none of it is possible without hard work. Hard work that takes dedication, that takes diligence, and even more so, requires a lot of courage. Courage that you showed as you stepped across what your parents or what your family were trying to persuade you into. That was to be the Olivia Pope for the family. But you said, no, I am more, I deserve more, I am better, I am bigger. And you took a route that was not necessarily the easiest. And now your journey impacts lives, impacts women by sharing a personal, or should I say, lending the possibility to somebody else, lending your experience, telling and bridging your experience into somebody else's perspective, somebody else's world. And the more personal the story is, people might be able to start to see themselves in it, start to see the possibilities of their lives, and start to see the possibilities of that connection. And they then build the courage and the resilience to then be able to step into a greatness. Borrowed stories and data driving some of these discussion points as well. I find your story to be a beautiful story, a story that motivates, encourages, and I'm sure we have touched more than one life within this discussion. And even as you had your 3 months crying, talking to your mentor, you were in a dangerous space, you had no money, your business was about to close, you were fighting, you were crying from the depths and the pits of your soul. You were angry with the circumstances. The 5 a.m. club, you were all over socials, discovery calls, no results came through. And on the 3rd day of your fasting, ding, 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 and you've not looked back. You have not looked back. And so your journey is a truly beautiful story. A story that is, for me, will talk and touch many different people. I've really enjoyed sharing or having this moment with you, or for you to share the story with us. And I would like to just thank you yet again for coming onto the Shameless podcast and having this moment with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and the opportunity of sharing my story. And I hope that I've lent even more possibilities to so many people, and may they share with others as well.
This podcast is powered by Transformation Leader, and we're committed to transforming 1 million lives by 2026 through impactful learning. Together, we can spark positive change across communities. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out our free leadership training, links in the description below.